The crystalline halls of the Nexus station fell silent as Ambassador Sarah Chen's boots echoed against the translucent floor. Behind her, the 3-meter-tall Vorthak delegation chittered in their native tongue, mandibles clicking with what their translation matrices rendered as diplomatic concern. The ethereal Zephyrians floated motionless, their gaseous forms shimmering with colors that indicated deep unease. "Ambassador Chen!" called out High Negotiator Kexthul, his reptilian voice, carrying across the chamber through universal translators. "Surely we can reach an accord. The terms are reasonable." Sarah paused at the chamber's threshold, her hand resting on the biometric scanner that would seal the negotiations permanently once activated. The weight of 6 billion human lives pressed against her shoulders, yet her voice remained steady. Reasonable. She turned, her brown eyes scanning the assembled representatives of the Galactic Confederation. "You call the systematic relocation of humanity from 73 worlds reasonable? The reduction of our military to ceremonial status? The placement of Confederate observers in every human settlement?" The crystalline delegate, shard of morning light, resonated with harmonic frequencies that translated as diplomatic necessity. "Your species has proven unpredictable. The Terran Vega incident alone was self-defense," Sarah interrupted, her tone sharp enough to cut through the ambient hum of the station's life support systems. "When the hegemony blockaded our supply routes, what did you expect us to do? Starve quietly?" Elder Whisper Through Void, the ancient Zephyrian representative, pulsed with deep purples and golds. Their thoughts flowed through the translation matrix like wind through leaves. "Young species, your nature is one of conflict. These terms ensure galactic stability." Sarah's laugh was bitter, echoing off the crystal walls. "Stability through submission. Interesting how that only applies to humans." The truth hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Every species present had their own dark chapters: the Vorthak swarm wars, the crystalline purge protocols, the Zephyrian mindstorm campaign. Yet none faced the restrictions now proposed for humanity. Kexthul's secondary arms gestured in what passed for Vorthak diplomacy. "Your species lacks the wisdom of age. In time, will be extinct." Sarah's words carried the finality of a closing airlock. "Scattered, neutered, and forgotten. No, High Negotiator, humanity rejects these terms." She placed her palm on the scanner. The red light flashed green, and blast doors began their inexorable descent. "Ambassador!" Shard of Morning Light's harmonics reached a crescendo of alarm. "Consider the consequences. Without Confederate protection, humanity faces annihilation." Through the narrowing gap, Sarah's voice carried one last message. "Then the galaxy will learn what annihilation truly means." The doors sealed with a resonant clang that reverberated through the Nexus station like a death knell. Within hours, the Confederate communications networks blazed with emergency transmissions. Fleets repositioned across 3 spiral arms. Defense. Platforms powered their weapons arrays. The galaxy held its breath. Admiral Marcus Rivera stood on the bridge of the human Navy's flagship, the UES Defiance, watching as tactical displays painted the surrounding space in hostile red. 6 Confederate battle groups had assembled at the edge of human space, their weapons trained on Terra itself. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender demands from the Confederate fleet. They're giving us 48 hours." Rivera studied the display. 12,000 enemy ships versus humanity's meager 800. By every metric, it should have been a massacre. "Open a channel to all human vessels," he ordered. Across the fleet, screens flickered to life, showing the weathered face of the man who had led humanity through the Outer Rim Rebellion. "Today the Confederation thinks they can cage us," Rivera began, his voice carrying to every human ship, every colony, every outpost scattered across the galaxy. "They believe we'll kneel because we're outnumbered. They think we'll surrender because we're young. They're about to learn why evolution favored persistence over perfection." The Confederate attack came at dawn, Terra Standard Time. Plasma beams and particle cannons lit the void like angry stars. The first wave should have shattered human defenses in minutes. Instead, human ships did something unprecedented. They scattered. Not in retreat, but in patterns the Confederation had never encountered. Single ships dove through enemy formations, targeting command vessels with surgical precision. Human fighters, impossibly small and fast, swarmed capital ships like angry insects. When Confederate vessels adapted, human tactics shifted again. On the Nexus station, the delegates watched the tactical feeds in growing horror. "They're not fighting to win," Whisper Through Void observed, their form cycling through confused grays and blues. "They're fighting to hurt us." Kexthul's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Impossible. No species fights without hope of victory." But Shard of Morning Light understood. Their crystalline structure resonated with realization. "They're not fighting for victory. They're fighting for cost." Each human ship destroyed took 3 Confederate vessels with it. Each colony overrun had been booby-trapped, turning conquest into Pyrrhic victory. The humans weren't trying to win. They were making subjugation too expensive to sustain. By the 3rd day, Confederate casualty reports painted a grim picture. The human fleet was decimated, but Confederate losses were catastrophic. Entire battle groups had been crippled. The flower of Confederate naval power lay broken in the void. On Terra, as plasma bombardment turned the skies orange, Sarah Chen stood in the bunker that served as humanity's final command center. Around her, the remnants of human leadership watched their species' death throes with grim satisfaction. "Ma'am," a young lieutenant reported, "Confederate forces are requesting parley." Sarah smiled, blood trickling from her nose as the bunker shook under orbital bombardment. "Put them through." Kexthul's image flickered to life, his reptilian features twisted with something approaching respect. "Ambassador Chen, the Confederation, proposes revised terms." "No terms," Sarah replied. "Humans don't negotiate from our knees anymore." "Then you choose extinction?" "We choose to be remembered." Sarah's eyes blazed with defiant fire. "Every species in this galaxy will know what it costs to cage humanity. And when they look at the ruins of your fleets, they'll ask themselves if they're next." The transmission ended. Within hours, Confederate forces began their withdrawal. The cost of conquest had proven too high. In the years that followed, humanity rebuilt. Not as Confederate subjects, but as the galaxy's untamed reminder that some spirits could never be broken. The peace talks had failed, but something far more valuable had been born, respect earned in fire and paid for in blood. The galaxy had learned to fear the humans who walked away from peace and chose war on their own terms.